All right, everybody, this is Graphing Calculator Skills video number 3, and we're going to be looking at using our graphing calculator to find the maximum, the minimum, the zeros of a graph of a quadratic function. So have your graphing calculator out so you know where the buttons are, and have some notes so that you can refer back to the buttons that you have to press in order to use these tools. So if you need to pause, go ahead and then come back to the video when you're ready. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started. And this is our first example. So in y equals on your graphing calculator, you want to type in 2x squared minus 10x minus 12. And we're going to go ahead and press graph, and we're going to take a look at it. And what I notice is that since I'm looking for a maximum or minimum value here, that my minimum value, the vertex, is not visible on my screen, so I need to change the window. So the first thing we'll do is we'll adjust the window, and then we're going to arrow down because I think I need more y values in the negative direction, so maybe we'll try 30. And then I'll regraph it, and I notice that I can now see the vertex. So I'm going to write down those steps. We did y equals, and we put in the equation. And then we adjusted the window if we need to. This isn't an always. Sometimes you don't have to. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to press second and then the trace button. Okay, our second trace. Oops, sorry. And second trace gives us that calculator menu that we've seen before. And since our job here is to find the maximum or minimum, which is the vertex, this case we have a minimum. It had this low point on the graph. The vertex was on the bottom. And so I'm going to choose number 3, or I'm going to arrow down in this case. Okay, so number 3 is minimum, and then you'll press enter. So it brings you to the calculator screen where you get this little cursor, and the cursor, which I kind of refer to as the frogger, you want it to be on the left side of the vertex, which it is. So you can type a number. In this case, 0 is on the left side of the vertex, and I'm choosing an x value. Then I press enter. And then I move over to the right side. Now you can use your cursor, or you can just press a number that you know for sure is on the right side. And I'm going to choose a number that I know significantly on the right side, so how about 5? And when I press enter, the cursor moves to where x equals 5. And this is definitely on the right side of the vertex. You don't have to guess, you can just press enter again. And it will actually calculate my vertex for me. And so this, so what did we do now? We did the left, we did the right, and we guessed. And all of those have an enter after it. So you press the number, enter, and for guess you can just press enter. So my vertex is at 2.5, and that is a 2.5 with the approximation done by the calculator, and negative 24.5. Since I'm looking for a minimum, the minimum refers to the y value, so my minimum is negative 24.5. So we're going to practice these same keys again. So let's go ahead and do that again. So here's our next example. So we're going to go back to y equals, and I'm going to retype that in. So a new example, negative x squared minus x plus 12. And we'll take a look at the graph. And if you don't like this, the view of the screen, remember you can always do zoom 6. And if at any point I'm going too fast, just pause or rewind. Now I zoomed 6 and I got the 10 by 10 by 10 window there, and I need to go higher. So I'm going to go back to my window and I'm going to make my y values higher. So maybe I'll go up to 15. And I'll press graph again. And now I can see the vertex. So recap on that. We did y equals, and we put in the equation. We adjusted the window so we could actually see the vertex. And then we went ahead and we used, we're going to use second trace again, which gets us our calculator menu. And we'll go this time, it's a maximum because the vertex was up high. It was the highest point on our graph, so that's number 4. Okay, so once again, we have to go on the left side of it. And so I know a number on the left side, I'm using an x, is -2. So I'm just going to type -2. You could have chosen -3 or 4 or -5. It doesn't matter. I'm choosing something on the left. Then I'm going to choose something on the right side, and I think a positive number would be a good choice, so maybe +2. So I've chosen a left, I've chosen a right, and it says to guess. If you want to guess, you can. I'll press enter. So it has actually gone through and found, because I gave it a left bound, I gave it a right bound, so it says don't look outside, just look between these two. And now I have my vertex, which tells me, and again, this is rounding, so it's -0.5, comma 12.25. And that tells me that my maximum value is the y value. It's the highest point, is 12.25. Let's take a look at the next step. This one is asking us to find the zeros of the function, and zeros refer to where does it cross the x-axis. So I'm going to go back into y equals, and I'm going to clear this out, and I'm going to type in x squared plus 7x plus 10, and I'm going to look at my graph. If you would like to zoom 6 on that, you're welcome to. It brings it to a nice picture. It didn't really matter. I could see the vertex in both situations, and I can see where it crosses the x-axis. For this, so recap again, I don't want to get too far ahead of us. So we did our y equals, and that was the equation. We reset the window, so I did a zoom 6 on this one, but you could have, if you needed to adjust the window, you should have. What we have to see are the intercepts, because that's what our zeros are. Now, the next step is still going to go into that menu, so I'm still going to press second trace, but this time I'm looking for zeros, and it's called 0, so it's number 2. And I press enter. Now I have 2 places where it crosses the x-axis, so I have to find them one at a time. So we'll do this process twice. So for my left bound, and I'm going to try to find the one on the left side first, I'm going to choose a number on the left side of this, so something that would be over here. So maybe -6. And I press enter. And you can see the cursor is on the left side of the intercept. Now I'm going to choose something on the right side. Something on the right side is maybe like -3. So I type in for the right bound -3. Press enter. Again, you don't have to guess. And then I press enter, and it tells me what my 0 is. So the first 0 that we found is -5, 0. That's our first intercept, or x equals -5. Let's find the other one. We repeat these steps starting with second. Oh, I didn't put that in there. Second calc, or second trace. That's how we got the menu. So second trace, we choose number 2. And again, we're going to choose something on the left. Now this time on the left, I'm choosing a value right over here, maybe -3. And on the right side, I'm choosing maybe a positive value, or maybe 0, because there's an x value, so maybe I'll choose 0. And then I press enter for my guess. And it brings me right to the other intercept, which is -2, 0. So once again, you are doing that left-right guess. And my other one is -2, 0, or x equals -2. If the intercepts are nice, they will also show up. By nice, I mean if they're integer values for your x's, they will show up in your table. So you can also look in the table to see that -5, 0 and -2, 0. However, if they're anything other than an integer, perhaps if it was -1.5 was your intercept, it may not show up it will not show up in the table, because the x's go by are counting by 1, so they're all integers. Let's try one last example. So go back to your y equals, and let's try this. If you feel you can do this without me, why don't you just go ahead and you can mute it, or you can just move ahead and try it by yourself, or fast forward. You don't necessarily need to listen, but I do think it's important you check that you got it right. So I've got it entered into y equals. I'm going to go to my graph. We'll see if we can see the intercepts. Oh, where are the intercepts? I don't see any intercepts. There's no intercepts up there. Well, let's go ahead and take a look again. And maybe we can change our window so we can see more of this. So I want to see more y's. Maybe something funny's going on. So I'm going to see y20. Oops, I went -20. Let me try that again. Max of 2. No, I put 2 in. I wanted 20. There we go. So we'll look at the graph. And I can see that this actually has no zeros. It does not cross the axis. Okay, so we would see for this one that there are no real solutions. There are no zeros. Okay, so that would just be by investigation. Let's take a look at another one since I want us to try this. Let's do oh, I know, 2x squared plus 5x minus 12. Let's just change that. Let's see how that does it for us. So let's arrow it over and we get minus 12. Now we see it cross the x-axis. Excellent. It must have been a typo. I apologize. So here we go. Now that we've got it at a minus 12, we can see that it crosses the x-axis twice. We can even go to our table of values and we can find one of the zeros, but I'm not going to find the other zero because it's not an integer. Okay, so that's one way to get them is right off the table. So I'm going to actually take us back and we're going to calculate the zeros. So I'm now in the second trace. So I'm looking at option number 2. And I already know that this one's negative 4, and we verified that from the table. But to find the other one, I'm going to choose something on the left. And I think 0 is on the left. And on the right, I'm going to choose something significant, something past this point. So maybe 5 for the right bound. And again, I'll guess. It doesn't matter where you guess. So this one actually was 1.5, and that is why it did not show up in the table of values. So negative 4, 0 came from the table, but we had to use this new feature here, the 0 feature, to find this one, and that one was from the second Calc number 2 option. That's how we found that one. All right, so please make any notes that you have and make sure you ask your teacher in class when we take a look at this. Great job.